Welcome to the Good News from the Gardens podcast. I am Pastor Steve Windsor of Nativity Lutheran Church and School in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Each week, I will be sharing a message grounded in faith, hope, and love of God from our Sunday worship service right here via this podcast. I hope you consider subscribing and sharing this message with others. Thank you for listening. Now this week's biblical reading and message. This is the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew from the 5th chapter. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." The Gospel of our Lord. Today is the fourth of 7-part series on gifts that keep on giving. It's been a focus these last few weeks on gifts that reveal themselves in new ways as time goes on. Gifts that we're bringing to the surface, that we're trying to be more purposeful about recognizing. Gifts from God. Gifts that are extended to us and are ours to receive if we are bold and loving enough to accept them. The Beatitudes remind us why fewer, better crafted words matter. Their poetic simplicity, if you will, makes radical messages clear and very memorable. Jesus challenges us not only what we share, but how we are to share it in the Beatitudes. Are you familiar with the show The Office? I'm going to go out on a limb here and hoping that folks are familiar with this song. I got a couple shaking heads. Good, Camaros. The Office? Are you familiar with the show The Office? Okay. I'm going to do my best to set the stage for you. Okay, The Office is just like it sounds. It's a sitcom, situational comedy, that's set in Scranton, Pennsylvania, in, of all things, a paper company. Dunder Mifflin is the name of the paper company. And it's a collection of about 12 or so persons that work together in Scranton, Pennsylvania, for this paper company. And they each have their own quirks. They are a very unique group of people. And there's one particular person, and so it's all about their relationships with one another. It's a highly dysfunctional place, and my Lord, there's probably some things in that show that have probably been canceled by now. But anyhow, there's a character in that show whose name is Kevin. And Kevin works in what they call the annex. It's like this part back in the office where the accountants work. And Kevin, in this episode that I'm speaking to you about, I'm going to share with you, Kevin is speaking in fragmented sentences. And his coworkers are very concerned that he's just speaking in fragments. Kevin kind of sounds like a cross between Mr. Snuffleupagus from Sesame Street and Winnie the Pooh's Eeyore. So he kind of has, if you kind of get the gist, he's kind of like, maybe, some might say not the sharpest tool in the shed. But anyhow, he's communicating these fragmented sentences, and there's a question of whether he's had a stroke or something, or if he's just just being lazy. But anyhow, his coworkers gather around him, and they're trying to make sense of why Kevin is speaking in these short little snippets. So one of the main characters, Jim, says, "Hey, Kev, what were you saying about that paperwork that we're working on?" And Kevin says, "Me do it now. Go, stop worry." Pam says, another coworker, "Kevin, do you feel okay?" Kevin replies, "Me feel good. Body strong. Sleep big last night." Kevin goes on it now pans to Kevin, and Kevin sits and explains why he's talking like this. Kevin says, "Me mechanic not speak English, but he know what me mean when me say car no go, and we best friends. So me think, why waste time, say lot word, when few word do trick." I kind of feel like that's what Jesus did here in the Beatitudes. Jesus not waste time, say lot of word, when few word do trick. When Jesus sees the crowds in Matthew 5, he goes up the mountain and he sits down. And that's an important posture for us to recognize. He doesn't stand over them. He sits down with them. He assumes a posture alongside of them. He does not overwhelm them. He sits and he speaks. What follows are the Beatitudes. This is understood as Jesus' first sermon. In Luke, it's the Sermon on the Plain. In Matthew, you may have heard it as being Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes. But this sermon is not long-winded doctrine, but a series of carefully chosen, simply worded lines. And they're rather poetic. They contain blessings more than, this is what is expected, this is what is going to happen, and this is how things are going to unfold going forward. It's more, they're blessings. And somehow, in their quiet clarity, these words have changed the world. So today I want to focus on blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And I think peacemakers is important for us to think about because we don't see a whole lot of peace going on these days. There's a lot going on. So this is relevant for us to talk about this beatitude, I feel, this morning. It is striking how little Jesus says here, but how much he means. Jesus doesn't define peace. He does not outline a strategy. He doesn't say, these are my points. He does not qualify who deserves it. He just, in 12 words, says what he means. That is the holy efficiency of Jesus' speech. Fewer words, better crafted words, words that linger long, long after the sermon ends. The Beatitudes invite us not only to reflect on what kind of people God blesses, but also on how God chooses to speak. Jesus teaches peace, not with endless prose and rambling on, but with precision. He does not argue with people into a transformation. He blesses them by giving them imagination. What might it look like for there to be peace? And in a world addicted to volume and loud opinions and endless commentary and constant reaction, Jesus offers us a quieter and a braver alternative. Peacemakers, after all, are not really passive. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of intention. Peacemaking requires discernment, knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to confront and also when to listen. When to use many words and when to trust in just a few. Peacemakers understand that tone, how we say something, can wound or heal just as surely as the content. They know that how we speak is often as important as what we say. And this is where the Beatitudes really presses in on us. They challenge not only our ethics, but our expression. Many of us, especially those called to preach, teach, advocate, or lead, often default to many words. Guilty. We explain, we defend, we clarify and repeat and do it again, and sometimes forsaking quality for quantity. But as the old quip goes, I didn't have time to write 1,000 words, so I wrote 2,000 words. Brevity, like peace, takes a concerted effort, takes work. Jesus shows us another way. His words are spare, they're sparse, but they're not at all shallow. They're deep. They're open enough to be remembered, repeated, and lived into. Not unlike the 10 Commandments. We hear them, we know them, we can absorb them. Blessed are the peacemakers is not a closed sentence. It's an invitation. It asks us to imagine peace not as something imposed from above, but as something made, something crafted carefully, something done patiently, and maybe most importantly, no, not maybe, yes, most importantly, relationally, by ordinary people who dare to sound like Jesus. So what of peacemakers? They will be called children of God. Peacemaking it resembles family. Peacemaking. It is how the world recognizes who we belong to. Not by how loudly we argue for God, but by how faithfully we embody God's reconciling love for us in Jesus Christ on the cross. Children learn how to speak by listening first, right? They listen intently. They learn how to communicate tone and intention and socialization long before they can pronounce words correctly. I remember this story is on my mind because tomorrow is Laurel's, my daughter's birthday, one of my daughter's birthday. She's going to be 20 tomorrow, and I was recalling a story of when we lived in Iowa, and we had our first Halloween. We had a pumpkin that was like this tall and probably this big around. It was massive. And it sat on our front porch. There's a picture of all the girls there. Mara wasn't born yet. And one night, that pumpkin disappeared. But it was found on the other side of the cul-de-sac on my neighbor's front porch. Laurel came outside and saw the pumpkin was gone because it was a popular piece on our front porch. And she marched across that cul-de-sac and knocked on the front door and gave Dana, our neighbor, fellow seminarian like myself, read him the riot act in her own little language. She didn't know how to say anything that made sense because she's barely over 2 years old. But the intention, she knew that pumpkin was supposed to be at our house. And she gave it to him. I think peacemakers do the same. Peacemakers, they learn tone, how to bridge, how to unite before technique. They learn how to be present with others before they know the whole story. Think of the universal languages that connect us across culture, such as food and music. Music. So many nuances to music. We feel music, right? We feel music. Like when something is played fast and loud, filling every little bit of silence, overwhelming the room. We feel that. It's like this is not right. But what about the musician that feels the space, feels the mood, plays slowly, conveying presence, allowing space between notes, trusting the rests as much as the sound. It invites us to listen and to breathe with the music. Peace often works the same way. It is not created by filling every gap with noise, but by honoring the space where understanding can grow. The Beatitudes are Jesus' reminder that faith is best expressed in many forms to reach many hearts. Words matter, but so do pauses, gestures, images, stories, acts of mercy, and quiet presence. Peacemaking may look like speaking truth, or it may look like refusing to escalate harm. And it may look like standing in between harm and a fellow human. And it may sound like poetry, or it may sound like silence held with love. Hear the blessing again, good people. Blessed are the peacemakers, not the loudest voices, not the most certain arguments. So, good people, let us craft our words with care, and may our tone convey good intention. May we learn to speak less and maybe to bless more, be loving presence more. May we create peace with our words, our bodies, and our choices. And in doing so, may we sound just a little bit more like children of God. Amen.
Thanks for listening. I hope this week's message has given you something life-giving to think about and given you hope that you are loved by God. To learn more about Nativity Lutheran Church and School, search PB Nativity on Facebook or visit our website at nativitylutheranpbg.com. If you would like to support this podcast or any of the ministries of Nativity, please visit our website giving page. Thanks again for tuning into this week's The Good News from the Gardens podcast. Till next week, love God and love God's people.